Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Duke, and this is I Am Right. And we are very excited today to have Hal Shurtleff with us. Hal Shurtleff is a patriot. I've known him for a lot of years. He is also the director of Camp Constitution, which is a wonderful camp in the New England area where you can send your kids for the summer for a couple of weeks and get a fantastic constitutional education. Hal is the director there. Camp Constitution also has its own dedicated YouTube channel. And really interestingly, Camp Constitution is home to the Sam Blumenfeld archives. And Sam was a fantastic pioneer for homeschool, a great voice for conservative traditional education. Hal, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Duke, thanks for having me. I'll just let me clarify. It's actually a family camp, so we have whole families as well as unaccompanied minor.
Wonderful. So the family can come out to the woods there and have a great time and learn about the Constitution as well. So Hal, the main reason we're having you on today is to talk about a controversy that's brewing there in the Boston area, of which your organization, Camp Constitution, is a central player. It's what's going on with Boston and the Christian flag. Will you talk a little bit, Hal, about what your situation is?
Well, back in late July, I applied for a permit to fly the flag you see in the back here. Not this particular flag, but one that looks a lot like it, a little bigger. Boston City Hall Plaza has what we call a public access flagpole. And over the years, different organizations and groups will get a permit, have a ceremony, fly their flag. And there's some pretty objectionable flags, in my opinion. But again, it's a public access. You have a private organization flies the flag of Communist China in early October to celebrate the Communist Revolution in China that killed millions of people. You have the rainbow flag, which commemorates a anti-police riot in Lower Manhattan. You have the transgender flag, and you have the flag of various countries. Also, you have a black nationalist group, and the leader has been in touch with me, and he says, hey, you guys should be able to fly your flag. They commemorate Marcus Garvey's birthday and things of that nature. So I applied for a permit late July of this year, and usually it just takes a few days to get a response. And it was more like, a week went by, and I followed up with a phone call and an email. And the person I dealt with, who's, I believe, sympathetic, you have every right to do this. I don't know what's taking them so long, and so forth. And anyway, I got the final answer about a month and a week later, early September, saying that no. And I wanted to get the official response. So what they did was they sent me an email that said the First Amendment, separation of church and state, somehow flying this flag will indicate that Marty Walsh, mayor of Boston, is now a convert to Christianity, and we've now got a Christian city, which is kind of ludicrous. He's the same mayor, by the way, that says that he's not going to enforce immigration laws. He wants to have a sanctuary city. So he's nullifying Article 1, Section 8 that deals with the immigration laws. He also said that if Roe versus Wade is repealed, that Boston will be a sanctuary city for abortions. But when it comes to this issue, the First Amendment, and we know the First Amendment just says, the religious clause says that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, nor denying the free exercise thereof. So when I got the official no, I sent out an initial news release to some of the media contacts in Massachusetts, as well as some people I know. And what happened was one person recommended Liberty Counsel get a hold of them. They're based in Virginia and also in Florida. So I went right to their website and put a little inquiry. Within a few hours, I got a call from one of the attorneys. They really like this case. They think it may be a landmark case. And so they sent a demand letter out a couple of weeks ago, giving the city so many days to respond with the permit, or there'll be a lawsuit. So that day has come and gone, and we're simply probably in the process of filing that lawsuit.
Fantastic. And so Mayor Marty Walsh, or somebody in his office, wants to argue that a simple Christian flag with a cross on it is going to tar and feather him as a Christian. Clearly, Marty Walsh is not the least bit bothered, is he, by being associated with communist China and its murders with Cuba and Castro? I know the Cuban flag flew there. So is that fair to say? That is it just religion in general that bothers Marty Walsh, or is it Christianity that's really the problem for him?
Well, Marty says that he's a proud Catholic, and my response was, show us some evidence of that, Marty. I don't think there's a whole lot of evidence of that. It's interesting, too, that the Boston flag, which is a blue field, has a Latin verse. And you being a good Catholic, you probably could read it very well, better than I can. But It's from First Kings, and it says basically to translate it, it says that may God favor us as He favored our forefathers. So that's right on the flag that flies on that flagpole all the time. And other you look. I took a walk through Boston Common. I live right in the city itself, born and raised here, and live here right in the city. I took a walk around Boston Common, did a little video, which you can find on our YouTube channel, Boston's Godly Heritage. And between Boston Common and the public gardens, about 80% of the statues of plaques have a Christian or godly theme to it, Bible verses. There's a plaque commemorating Pope John Paul II's visit. He served Mass on Boston Common. And guess what? They flew the Vatican flag on city property, too, back in 1979, before the Vatican was acknowledged by the U.S. government as a separate state. You would see references to Isaiah. There's a monument called the Ether Monument. There's a reference to Revelations and Isaiah. The famous 54th statue. There's a beautiful monument commemorating the all-black regiment, the 54th Regiment, and on the back of that is a verse from Proverbs about honoring those that have come. To honor. It's a good thing to honor those. It's a blessing to honor those who have passed.
So I know a lot of our listeners may not be aware that there is such a thing as a Christian flag. Could you give us a little bit, explain the Christian flag to us, its origins and its meaning?
Well, the Christian flag doesn't go back that far. Actually, it goes back to a Sunday school superintendent in Coney Island. And you thought you only got the hot dog and the Coney Island amusement park there, right? But it was back in late 1899. His speaker didn't show up, and he had to give a speech, and he looked at the American flag and talked about patriotism, and he thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had a flag that represents Christianity? But it took him a few years. He had collaborated with a friend, and they gave what you see in the back, and it's very simple. It's just the white field, the blue canton, and the red cross, the cross of St. George. And it's a non-denominational flag. Other denominations have their own flag. The Episcopals have it. Of course, the Catholic Church has their own flag. I'm sure other groups have it as well. But this one is a non-denominational flag. Some churches fly the flag, and even have a Pledge of Allegiance to it. Wow. And I'll tell you what motivated me. I've been involved with an inner city pastor in Boston, Pastor Bruce Wall. He's got a radio station, Praise and Worship Radio. And he had an Agenda 21 problem, which I don't have time to go into, but we were out there at a rally that he was hosting, and it kind of explained to him that this parking lot and gentrification and the bigger picture. So we became friends, and we had Reverend Stevie Kraft, who's known to you, of course. We had him on tour up here, and he spoke on. We had him on his show. Well, he had a prayer meeting inside the mayor's office. Now, Mayor Walsh was not sponsoring this. He was nowhere to be found. And we went into the ante room, not the actual office. And there was about 30 or 40 of us. It was not political. And we had Catholics, Protestants, and we just prayed as Christians are supposed to pray for the city, pray for the leaders, pray for our country, etc. And I thought this was probably the first time this has ever happened. And we were very well received. And when I walked out of City Hall, there was the rainbow flag flying. And I said, I think we should say we have a presence here in Boston, and it should be known. And that was sort of the motivation.
And you've been getting quite a bit of not just national press, but Boston press as well. And in the pre-talk, you mentioned what was going on at Boston University, and so sort of a man on the street interview. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, well, we got the front page in the Boston Herald. And by the way, I never anticipated this media coverage. And I also want to point out that the Liberty Council is all pro bono, because we have donors that support us, and we're not using that money to pay for lawsuits. So it's all pro bono. But the front page of the Boston Herald, it was entitled "No Fly Zone," and a columnist for the Herald, Michael Graham, who also used to host a radio show, had an op-ed that Sunday, and there was a follow-up story. Channel 4, CBS affiliate, did a story, came to visit the mayor, visited me, and a few others. Boston University Press. Now, no one's going to claim Boston University as some kind of right-wing bastion, but they have their daily newspaper, and a young reporter called me up, and she interviewed me for a little while, and they actually did a man-on-the-street interview, and when they ran the story, everybody they spoke to said, hey, what's the big deal? Let them fly their flag. So it's kind of interesting to see that even in liberal Boston, all the support that we've been getting.
In talking to the guys at Liberty, your pro bono legal counsel, this clearly is a violation. I mean, is there any way in which your group of lawyers thinks that the city is justified? And what do they think is going to have to happen before Boston gets its act together and lets you fly this flag?
Well, they wrote a demand letter, and they cited, I don't know, about 4 or 5 cases, not necessarily dealing with raising a flag, but freedom of speech. It's public property, but what they're saying is that you can't control private speech on public property. Just like, for example, in Boston Common, you have evangelists all the time showing up there, giving out the gospel. In fact, when I was doing my video, there was a guy just preaching the gospel. Well, they can't say, wait a minute, no, this is public property, so you got to be careful what you say. You can't say that. It's nonsense. So it looks like it's an open and shut case, and we're hoping the city will realize that and just issue the permit. But I have to thank them in case they made this a national issue. We like to see people, it's time that we believers and conservatives and patriots get out of the closet, and that city of Boston, it belongs to us as much as it belongs to the people on the left.
It is amazing how in such a short period of time we've gone from a majority religion, a proud representation of our Christian history in every aspect of. I mean, what city, perhaps more in the United States, the one city in the United States that when we think of the Christian heritage, the founders, the patriots, the pilgrims, we think of Boston. And as you said yourself, monuments all over that city from 100, 200 years ago are just dedicated to the Lord.
Even 30 or 40 years ago, even more recently,
It's amazing.
John Winthrop, who was the founder of Boston, he had this famous speech on the Arbella before he landed, and he used to make Boston, he called it a city set on a hill, a reference from Matthew. And that's our history. And it's like it or not, that's our history. And there's still a lot of people that believe. And when I was on the radio show on this Praise and Worship, some of the black clergymen called in and they said, we're going to support you. And then this dear lady, an elderly lady, called up and she said, I'm on a fixed income. She says, but I'll donate $100 to buy Christian flags. So I'm going to talk to the lawyers. I was going to put a call to them and see if we would maybe hold a press conference and have everybody there with a subversive Christian flag, just to show, we're not backing down. And again, we didn't look for this. We didn't look for this fight. We just thought we'd have a little rally. We were going to invite Reverend Stevie Kraft, who's one of our instructors. He's a friend of yours. And he was going to give a little speech on the need for racial reconciliation. That doesn't sound too bad. It's a thing that I think it's something that we as Christians should be leading in. And also, we had one of our instructors is a man from the South Sudan who actually been tortured by the Muslims when he was a teenager. And he wasn't going to talk about Muslims. He was going to talk about the blessings he and his family have in this beautiful country of ours. And then we were going to invite some other people once we get a date set. And we still hope to do that. We still hope the city will say, look, just quietly give us the permit and we'll be on our way.
Hal, I want you to keep us up to date here on this issue. We want to have you back on when there's a resolution one way or another. We want to make sure we get this out there to as many people as possible. And before we go today, I want to just put another nice word in for Camp Constitution. It's a wonderful organization. Can you say just another quick word or two about what you guys do at Camp Constitution and give our viewers a website they can go to see some more information about you guys?
Right. Well, we do have year-round activities. We do events and homeschool shows. We have our own speakers bureau and information tables. And we also have the Sam Blumenfeld archive, which is all free. All we need is an email address. You have access to a lot of his writings, his alphaphonics. Our website's campconstitution.net. We have a YouTube channel. We're getting about 1,400 views a day, so it's really picking up. And some of our classes, Professor Willie Soon is one of our instructors. He'll be back next year. And by the way, we actually have a Duke, a Lord, and a King coming back. We have a Duke Pesta, we have Lord Monckton, and we have Mr. Michael King of Massfield Institute coming to camp next year. Next year's camp is going to be in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, August 5th to the 11th, and that information is on the website as well.
And the Berkshires, if you don't know, you're looking for a great vacation spot for your family and a great constitutional camp. Get a hold of these guys. And Hal, thanks. Please do get back in touch with us. Want to have you again down the road. See how it goes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
If you enjoyed this video and all of our videos, please consider a tax-deductible donation so we can keep the whole thing free for you. I'm Dr. Duke. Thanks for watching.